welcome to Food for Thought. I'm your host, Ramona Singh, and it's always a pleasure to have this conversation with you. We aim for it to be motivational, inspirational, and thought-provoking. And today's discussion is about the best advice we can give for success when it comes to the ages of 35 and 45. And joining me in studio is Jadoo Jaswal. He is the group editor of Y Media. Hello and welcome.
Thanks, Ramona ji. Thank you so much. I think the topic today is going to be very interesting. We're going to give our suggestions, one of the advice for those who are in between the age group of 35 to 45. And I would say this doesn't necessarily mean that it's only for 35 to 45, but just in case you're in that age bracket, this suggestion or this advice is best suited for you.
Absolutely. And you know, we've done a series of this. We started from 15 to 25 and then 25 to 35. And now this week it's about 35 to 45. I do have to give, an announcement is that I'm only 40 years old, so I can only take you up to 40 perhaps, and then the rest is up to you.
Sure, I'll take it further because I'm 49. So I'm okay doing 35 to 45. Yeah. And most of the things that we usually share, I'm sure our viewers already know that this will be from our personal experiences as well. And in case you missed those episodes in which we discussed from 15 to 25, then 25 to 35, try watching those as well. And I'll try my best. There shouldn't be any overlap because this is what I try. I don't want to deliver any repeat content. But anything that we've discussed for 15 to 25, that doesn't necessarily mean it's not applicable today. Like I think last week we discussed health as one of the key things. So health would be from 15 to 25 as well, 25 to 35, 35 to 45. But we discussed health as a very important point in the top 5 suggestions, top 5 advice that we're giving for success. But for success, health will always be one of the things there. But we'll try to give something which is different and especially which is in tune with 35 to 45.
That's fantastic. That is so true because there's things that we even talked about. I was even thinking that some of the things you mentioned from 15 to 25 was like, those are things you could do right now. So You're right. It doesn't mean that's for that decade. It's just we mention it in a way that if you are thinking about it earlier and if you start doing those things earlier, you just set yourself up for success given the name of what we're trying to discuss here. And I have to say that this is my favorite decade.
Okay.
I have to say that. So I'm very excited about today because I'm living it. Whereas when I was talking about 15, 25, I had to think back to my life and then earlier. Whereas right now I am living it and there's certain things that are working for me. There's certain things that did not work for me that I had to adjust. And I think that's why I'm super excited about today. And I have to say this is probably the best time of my life. And I would want everybody to feel like they're having the best time of their life. And so one of the main things I could say before I go into, I have so much to say today, so it's a little bit harder for me to break it down in 5 things. But before we start, I just kind of put my thoughts on paper a little bit just so I can organize it. But I do have to say that, if you want to feel good every birthday, one measure about that is that if you feel like you're not feeling good or celebratory or feeling like this is the best time of your life, is where are you at and what is your your self-actualization? Do you remember that model we learned in high school? Like Maslow's law, self-actualization is like top of the pyramid. First, it's like your basic necessities. Don't quote word for word because I learned this in high school and I'm just recollecting it. But really, it made a big impact because it made me realize, you got to meet your basic necessities such as food, shelter, water, security, and then you go through the other phases. But your top one is your self-actualization. Who do you want to be? Who do you want to show up as? Right? You have one life. What are you going to do? Who are you going to be? And not someone else, but who are you? And what do you want out of yourself? What do you want out of your life? How do you want your experiences to be? And I find that if you are not as happy celebrating birthdays, because I noticed that with certain friends that they were like, oh, I'm getting older. And then my birthdays would come around and I would feel that I'm so happy because I wouldn't want to be celebrating a previous birthday because that was good for then. And I realized the closer I get to the self-actualization of what I imagined for myself, the more I feel like I'm on track, so there's something to celebrate. But the birthday is usually that time for measure. Like everything you want to measure. You want to lose weight? How much do you weigh right now? Get it down on paper, and then where do you want to be? And one thing you taught me is get on a scale every day. Now I have a nutritionist who I have to message my weight every morning, so I don't have a choice. I have to get on it. He says yes, because I said I gotta get into shape. And he's like your most accurate weight is first thing in the morning. So he's like, text me your weight, because your meal plans are gonna be calculated based on your weight and what's your ideal. And so now I got into a habit of getting on the scale every morning, and I even went from a mechanical one to a digital one because he wants the point, the digits after the point. And I noticed that when you track yours, you put like your weight and then the point and then whatever it is after the decimal point. So what I'm trying to say is that sometimes your birthdays come around, that's your measure. Like, where am I at? Am I happy? Did I imagine being at this age, this is the life I was gonna live? So that's not one of my 5, but I just, that's not why I only saying that because I'm saying that. That's not, so it doesn't count.
Doesn't count.
It doesn't count.
Don't
subtract from me. No. But I was just saying I'm feeling good because part of the reason is I feel like I'm on track. If I wasn't on track, then I would have slumped shoulders. I wouldn't feel so good. I wouldn't feel so bad about myself. Maybe I wouldn't want to celebrate as much. And maybe I'd feel bad about getting old. But like, do you know?
Yeah. I'll start with my first, but before I do that, just 2 quick points. First of all, touched wood, by the grace of God, I felt that this is the best time of my life almost every year. There hasn't been a time in my life up until now, and I hope so, this stays as is, I don't want to jinx it, that every moment in my life I said, yeah, wow, I'm enjoying my life, whether it was school, whether it was college, job, career, whatever I'm doing. And until date, I think this is the best time of my life. I'm enjoying it. It's almost been a fairy tale. Whatever I thought, it has happened. And to a point, I told you from the last 2-3 years now, I say, okay, think before what you want. Everything, whatever I've asked from this universe, from God, it has happened that way. So I'm having a ball. Best time on this planet, this life, this one thing. Second, you're right. Yes, that has helped me a lot. I was overweight. I was 226 for my height. It is overweight. I was just 2 pounds away from being declared as obese. I mean, 226 for my height. I'm 5'10 and a half or 5'11 even, but still 228. You're obese. Period. So from that, from 2013, I lost more than 55 pounds, and I've stayed from 175 to 78, more or less, very much in the same category. Even this morning, I was 176.8. So I know my weight every single day. 2013, it's been almost 9 years. I've been tracking my weight to the last decimal point. I do that, and that has worked well for me. I'm not saying it will work well for anybody. My first point being today is that yes, I think 35 to 45, this is the age you're more or less settled now. Like, okay, if you had to get married, you're married, kids, you planned your kids, your career, your education is more or less done now. So, and this happened with me as well. Whatever I had to do, it was more or less settled now. 35 to 45, I think this is the age, because being in engineering as a scientific mind, I always wanted to do something original. So here is Mike, I'm again coining a term today, right, sitting here. What is your ABC? Sometimes you say, I know A to Z of this thing, I know A to Z of that thing. First thing is, this is the time to understand what is your ABC. How do you define yourself? What are your core values? What defines Yudhvir Jaswal? I should know that. But this is the right age now. I've tried, I've tested, I explored, I experimented in a lot of things as a teenager in my 20s, but now is the time to start defining yourself. At around 35, I started defining myself. What are my core values? It could be anything. There are many of them, so in the interest of time, I won't talk much about them. But one thing, okay, I have to be in media all my life. I defined it. This is my core value. I enjoy doing media, period. I'll be doing media for the rest of my life. I had decided by this. I actually had decided a little bit earlier, but I had stamped it that I would be doing this. So second thing, again, these should be all things you could reevaluate yourself. Do a SWOT analysis if you want to call it that way, but I'll say, what is your ABC? This is a time to reevaluate yourself. What do you want in your life? As we said earlier as well, clarity of thought, what makes you happy, but then start defining your core values. What is Yudhvir Jaswal? What is your essence? And that will be your guiding principle for the rest of your life. And very importantly, as I move further, I've heard this term a lot in North America, not in India that much, maybe in India also they started using this one, midlife crisis. And I try to figure it out. I'm 49, I said, will I have any midlife crisis or no? I hear a lot about that. So I thought maybe at around, clarity of thought was very important to me in my 20s, in my 30s as well. So I thought maybe I started figuring it out. These are my core values. And they help you stay on a certain path. These are my principles. Like I decided at that time, integrity is very important for me. Very important for me. I cannot compromise on my integrity. It's very important for me, especially for any business or any career. It is very important for you. So these are certain things I started defining. These are my core values. This is my ABC. This is what will define me. Knowledge, another very important point. I wanted to make sure that yes, at one point we were selling ads for the same space, same timing, $500. And that also we had to run after the customers. And at many times at the start of my business, as I thought that I'll be very good. But after 3 months or 6 months, they would say, Yudhvi, we're not getting any response, so we might pull out. As much as we want to support you, you're a great guy, young guy, want to support you, but no, you have to pull it out. That is the time I realized, no, I have to create value in myself. What is the same Yudhvir today, he can even ask $10,000 a month. At that time, it was same Yudhvir, same airtime, same space. Everything is same. I'm not, this media is not working at a global level. What is the difference? What has changed? I asked myself, what is Yudhvir? What is Yudhvir? What's your core value? What do you bring on the table? What do you bring on? SWOT analysis. What is your ABC? So ask yourself these questions if you are in the age group of 35 to 45.
That's a very good one. Yeah, I like that one. And I'm going to build on that, but
Sure.
that's my second one to build on. The first one is, I would say, now you are in a good place in your life. You finished school, you've been out of school probably 10, 15 years by now, maybe a little less depending on how much education you've, gone through. Yes, you are settled in your career to this point. You should at least be in your career by maybe a decade or so, because now you've potentially moved from, entry level to some sort of mid-management. If you're in your business, you've had a few years to break into it. If it's a relationship, you've now matured to settling down, finding a life partner, and then perhaps even being a parent. So you're in a really good place. So you're in a good place where you still have the energy to do things, you have the experience, and you have access to resources. So what I would have to say is, before any of the other stuff, you gotta love yourself and you gotta forgive yourself. Because a lot of time we are, just ask yourself, what emotions are you in most of the time? Are you feeling guilt? Are you feeling shame? Are you feeling regret? Are you feeling down? If you're feeling in those low vibrational feelings, we've always used that chart, right? That chart of the vibrations, and it's measured in hertz about where you are at, because whatever you're feeling, that's your experience in life, and then you attract like attracts like. You then start attracting more of it, and the way our brain is wired is that then it looks for more of those things, and then that's just going to be your life. So understand that that's not where you want to be, but first you have to identify with yourself. Is this where I live most of the time? Is my state always at a very low level, or is it at an optimal level where you have so much joy, love, peace, appreciation, gratitude, all of those wonderful things that will multiply in multiple folds, because you're feeling it, and therefore you're going to attract more of it in any given situation, whether you're waiting in a long lineup. And because you come from a place of love, appreciation, joy, gratitude, you wouldn't look at it as like, oh my goodness, I'm wasting my time in this long lineup. Perhaps you're gonna make a friend in the line, or perhaps something's gonna cross your mind and you're gonna have an awareness or solve a problem. Whatever the case is, I remember that's what happened to me when I became very conscious of that. I remember I was at a Starbucks, and this is like 10 years ago, and I was very mindful. How do I change my state, how I feel in any given situation? If I'm in a situation where I'm frustrated, I need to say, Ramona, snap out of it, change my state. And what can I learn from this incident? Because there's so many opportunities at every level. So I remember I was at a Starbucks, and and I was in a seminar. So there's a short period of time you can take a bathroom break, get something to eat or drink. And I was at a Starbucks, and the seminar was at this hotel. So I'm waiting in this long lineup, and I ordered, and now it's taking like 15 minutes for my order to show up. And I don't want to lose my seat, and I don't want to miss out on the content, and all these, so I'm getting a level of anxiety, and I'm just getting a little frustrated because I feel like my order is not that hard, it should be quicker. Anyways, so I snapped myself back into state. I said, okay, if you're gonna be frustrated, then your frustration is gonna grow, because you're gonna find more things to be frustrated about. Change your state and find value in this moment, find something to appreciate. And then as I was watching this at Starbucks, and I saw they took my name, And then I started seeing them calling everybody's name. Oh, what was frustrating me is that people who were behind me were getting their drinks before I was. And now I recall, this was 10 years ago. You have to forgive me. But it's a very impactful moment that I just brought out of my memory vault that I haven't thought about. But what was impactful is as I watched them call everybody's name and give them their drink, I realized how ingenious it is by Starbucks that when they put your name on the drink, then you have a sense of ownership to it. It's no longer a Starbucks drink, but it's Ramona's drink.
Yeah.
And it's so customized because you go into Tim Hortons, what are you going to customize? How much, like, okay, you can customize the number of sugars and maybe milk, but you're not customizing. Like when I go to Starbucks, I want it extra hot, I want oat milk, I want this, I give them a whole scenario of what I want. But then what they do is they don't just have Starbucks on it and say, here, they have my name on it. This is mine. I created it. I invented it. You made it for me. It belongs to me. And I realized what a great customer experience that is, and what a great marketing strategy that is, because yeah, I will pay more than, a Tim Hortons, and perhaps maybe the Tim Hortons tasted better, but there's a level of ownership and customization that I feel is particular to me, and perhaps that's why there's the value in the price, which is more. And this entire thing just got revealed to me as I'm standing there because I took the opportunity to find something good in that and change my state of frustration. And also I had this massive download of like, hey, if I were to ever create a product, well, I should customize it to the client. I came up with this almost like a business model in my head on marketing, and that was because I changed my state. I said, I gotta find value in this moment because I'm not in the seminar receiving value, but I gotta receive value right now. So Ramona, what can you do? What are you seeing? What are you noticing? What's the pattern? What's the trend? What does that mean to you? What does it mean to the next person? I started asking these questions. Obviously I did it as I'm saying it, I realized it sounded like it was at a rapid phase, but it was a great experience. So my question is, I wanna go back to, but sorry, I went into something else right now. But my main thing was you got to love yourself and forgive yourself. I'm telling you, I got so much right now because I'm living this phase right now. I have so much to offload today, so I have to make sure that I organize my thought flow and stick to our pattern and our flow today. But essentially, it's you got to love yourself, because if you're not living in that state of love, oh yeah, that's why I said the frustration. So if you're feeling in that, switch it out. Feel the gratitude. Look what I was able to receive from the universe by just changing my state from frustration to finding appreciation. And I found the opportunity, and I was so appreciative that, hey, I just learned something. And like nobody had to tell me. I didn't have to read it. I didn't have to look at my iPhone or like whatever, Samsung, whatever phone you have. It was like just using my mental acuity and observation skills. And so I would say you got to go through that, and then do the best way. If you don't love yourself, you can't love someone else, and that's just it. But if people say, no, I love that person more than I love myself, that's not true. That's not true. You're dependent on that person. That's not the same as loving the person. That could almost take it to a toxic level. Like you know how some people say, "Oh, I love this person more than," no, that you can't. It's impossible for you to love somebody if you don't love yourself. Because if you can't give it to yourself, what are you packaging giving it to someone else? Am I making sense here?
You're making perfect sense.
So don't say that. That's false. That's not true. And so you got to love yourself, because before you do that, no one's going to love you. Who's going to love you more than you? Like really, if somebody says, I love you more than I love myself, again, that's not true, because you have to have that level of appreciation for how you treat yourself, your health, in the case that you were talking about, all of that before you can give it to someone else. Otherwise, where are you coming from a place of lack and you're trying to get it from someone else? Because there's a different term for that. That's not called giving. Love is called giving. That's just trying to meet a deficit. And then you're in a transaction state, and that's not love. So you got to do that, but you got to forgive yourself. You got to forgive things that you think are so unlovable. No, it's okay. You got to let it go. And regardless of there's no one moment in your life that essentially determines who you are. So if you think bad things happen to me, that is determined. No, that's not who you are. Those are things that happen. No moment in your life makes you who you are. It's about, what are your feelings? What is your perception about life? Because what I perceive about life, if I think life is sacred, how will I behave? If I think life is a dance, how will I behave? If I think life is a war, and it's hard, how will I behave? So it's really about your perceptions. It's really what you're going to put together. It's not what happened to you. Like, that's not at all the case. So that's my first. You got to love yourself, and you got to forgive yourself.
Couldn't agree more, and you've explained it very nicely, Ramona ji. And I also must say this, that yes, I've used this many times on radio, and I think we've used here on TV as well, on Food for Thought as well. Buddha ji says it very clearly. Who deserves your love the most? Who deserves your love the most? You. Who deserves your forgiveness the most in this world? You. So you started from there and you ended from there. And I heard it first time from Buddha ji. Actually, I was pretty surprised when I heard it from Buddha ji, but you know, he's one of my mentors, and yeah, I started realizing this, is we deserve our forgiveness the most in the world, and we deserve our love the most in the world. And I couldn't agree more on that one. And you're right, if I do not have water in my cup, you know, I don't have love within myself, I don't take care of myself, how can I offer you water? I don't have water, I can't offer you. If I'm not happy from within, how can I offer you happiness? I should be happy from within, not from outside. Yeah.
And you know that saying, misery loves company. So yeah, if you're not happy within, you of course, maybe you want company because you're trying to extract something that you're not giving to yourself. That's when problematic situations happen. Do you want to share your second one?
If you want to go ahead, you can start.
No, it's okay. You go ahead.
No,
We're going to go in order. Go ahead. Your turn.
It's up to you, but still.
That's fine.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, my second one is that yes, 35 to 45, as much as there'll be other times in your life, but this is your time, you could change the orbit. And this was the age that I realized, and precisely 37 to, if I changed my orbits really, it was around 37 to 39. That's the time I changed my orbits in my life. Why I'm saying this is the time you could change your orbits, you know, again, we're talking about what's your ABC, so now the C's of your life. You can change your orbit in your career, that's C for career. You can change your orbits with your company, because it's very important what sort of company you keep. So you can change your orbits in that. You can change your orbit, get a coach, as much as mentor is important, but I've always emphasized teacher is important, parents is important, mentor is important, but the most important thing is coach. So change or get a coach. This is again changing your orbit. Why? Because you know, you've done your education, your personal things are more or less settled, and if not, you want to get more education, you may or may not want to get it, you want to get married, you want to have kids, okay, that's all going on. You're trying to figure all that out. But most of the part is settled now. Now, where do you want to shape your life? Change your orbit if you have to. Like, I changed my orbit at this particular time, 37 to 39. I changed my company with whom I used to hang around, really changed everything. And I started hanging around with people who are very successful in life. And two things I got from there: what to do, and of course, what not to do. I also started learning that these are very highly successful people in their lives. And this is something, as much as they're very successful, but in a very subtle way, in a very silent way, I started noticing this is something I do not want in my life. I didn't discuss with them, and how they're successful. So my company was, at that time I was 37, 35. I started hanging around with people who were 50, all were about 50. 50 was the minimum, 50, 58, 68. And most of them, they had done something really well in their lives. And I made very good friends. I started seeking their advice. I'll just be silent listening to their advice. So I've changed my orbit in terms of company I kept. I changed my orbit in terms of business that I started doing. I certainly shifted my business as well. So again, I changed my orbit, but I kept the same career. But this could be your time if you are in a certain career from the age 35, 37. This is a very good time, because just in case, it does take time to settle down in your new career, whatever it is, whether you're opting for a business or you're opting in a job or any career. You're a teacher, tomorrow you want to join the forces, you want to join the forces, you know. From teacher to joining forces, you cannot do in your, you can, but it will be very difficult to join forces in your 50s, and you won't have much of a time, because everything takes time. One of the reasons that I've always seen that people do not do well, they do not stick. We got to do a whole show on commitment, because commitment is very important. Commitment is the key to success. There are many people who won't commit to anything. And when I was at this time in 35 to 36, there was a time, I think I was almost in my business for 10 years. I was not seeing any success at all. People were saying, usually you do get success in 2 years, 3 years, 5 years is generally. And I heard many people even saying this to me, that if you don't get success in 5 years, you won't get it in 10 years. And here I was, almost 10 years in a business in media, and success means I was doing okay. I was not successful. But there are certain things I tell them, yes, I'm listening to these guys, but no. I knew for sure, this is my commitment, that yes, I see life at the end of the tunnel. I see, yes, there is light at the end of the tunnel. I will succeed, even if it has gone 10 years. But on the other side, if at all you would, this is the time you want to change your orbit, change your career, change your company, change your coach, this is the right time to do, because with utmost respect, I'm saying this. After 45, or for that matter, even 40, 45, 50, the window to shift, the window to change your orbit will be shrinking. You could do anything. You could start anything in your 50s. You could start anything in your 60s, 70s, 80s. And we have had many success stories. I'm not denying the fact. But the window starts shrinking. This is the one of the good times to change your orbit in between 35 to 45. So think about that. Because after 40, 45, 50, 60, window will start shrinking.
You're so right, and that was my second one as well.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it was, and I literally, you explained it so well, and I was going to say the same thing.
Sure.
With all those things established, now's the time, and you said change your orbit. I had the word, this is when you can pivot. But it's exactly the same thing, and I think I chose the word pivot because you're always very gentle with the way you break criticism or the way you do it. So I've picked that up from you. I'm like, what is a gentle way to say pivot? But you're right, you got to change your orbit.
Yeah.
If certain friendships are not working or relationships, it's okay. You know, now your identity's formed. You're no longer in a position where you didn't know. Yeah, you know who you are by this point. You know if something works for you, if something doesn't work for you, if it's your career, if you need to, go back to school, do it. If you need to upgrade your skills. I'm a adamant thing for continuous learning. I'm an adamant advocate for continuous learning because I realized what I studied when I was in university, because I chose it when I was a teenager, and that was now like 20 years ago for me, is not adequate. I might as well just still be now considered illiterate compared in this society, because society is always advancing. And whether it's with technology right now, if you're like not computer literate, you're going to have certain problems right now to deal with. So you got to always be an advocate of learning. However way you learn, is it through books? Is it through short courses? Do you go back to school? Do you do seminars? Whatever it is that you do, whether you got to stick to something where you're continuously learning, and how often you need to do that. And it doesn't have to be like in an industry alone. It could be personal development. That's massive. I think that's an investment in yourself that you can't forego, because it changes everything else. It even changes your career, the trajectory of your career, and all of that. So I absolutely think this is the time to change your orbit if you need to, and make those changes, because there's no excuse. You have access to resources. Like, it's not like you're not a child where you rely on your parents to give you everything. You've passed that. You're not a student where you still rely on some other source because you're studying. You've been in your career for about 10 years, maybe 15 years at this point. You have access to resources. In this day and age, you have access to internet. Any information is available to you with just, in your handset. So there's like literally no excuse in the world why you're unhappy and you're not making any changes and you're not doing that. There's just none.
Yeah.
And no one's going to feel bad for you.
And whatever you're explaining at the start of the show, you just said that you're right, you're living this. I've seen that in you. I've seen that even in a short duration of time. And actually, I met you around 3 years ago. That was the first time I met you. And I think I've seen, and at that time also, you perfectly fell in this bracket of 35 to 45. You're 40 right now. I think you probably would be around 37 at that time.
Yeah.
So that was the first time I met you. And I think from 37 to 40, there's a sea change in you.
Huge.
Huge change in you.
Huge. I almost like if I were to meet that person,
okay,
like Ramona at 37, I would have an interesting conversation with her, but I don't know if we wouldn't have a lot of things in common, because there is a huge change. And you might think that sounds absurd. No, I've just been able to tap into things that were not available to me because my focus wasn't there. So where's your focus? Wherever your focus is where your energy goes. And where your energy goes is what you're going to get really good at. Right? So now I've shifted into so many other aspects of my life that I'm trying to conquer one after the other, because your life is multifaceted, right? There's your health, there's your personal relationships, there's your relationship with yourself, then there is, your career, then career is different than finances, then there's a whole bunch of aspects to your life, which we did, if you recall, early Food for Thought episodes. And that's important. So if you're excelling in one thing but not doing so well and flunking in other areas, then that's time to reflect and change your pivot, change your orbit, and get to where you need to go, because there's no excuse. Like, you're a fully enabled adult with resources and access to everything you want. Like, there's no reason why you should be suffering.
Yeah, very, very, very nicely said it. And since you're mentioning focus, before I get on to my third point, I'll just start from there itself. You're right, we've discussed this earlier as well. The first thing is clarity, because you can don't start putting your focus right away. Focus is very important. I like that word, always, focus. And energy, both these words. Yes, obviously, wherever you put your focus, your energy will go there, and energy will start finding ways for that. But before working on focus, before working on energy, I think the first thing that we should be working on is clarity of thought. So where do you get clarity of thought? What makes you happy? We discussed this earlier. We won't discuss too much of that today. What makes you happy? Clarity of thought, and then comes believe even before focus. Because what makes you happy? That will get you clarity of thought. And once you have clarity of thought, then you start believing. Believe is very important, that yes, believe in yourself, and then focus. All these things, 1, 2, 3, 4, success guaranteed. There is no way, if you put all these things one after the other, because I don't have clarity of thought, I'm putting all my focus on something, I don't even believe in myself.
No, that's not going to work out so well.
That's not going to work out so well.
Absolutely, you're absolutely right.
So on my third point today, again, I'm using lots of terms from my engineering background today, and as I've already discussed, two things I always try to do is, I'll only try to share what I have experienced in my life. In engineering, we use a term, I'm sure maybe some of you might have heard this term in physics as well, that's escape velocity. If I throw this phone right up like this, will this phone come back on this earth, or will this phone go out of this space? It won't go. Why? Because the force that I'm exerting on this phone, it's not the escape velocity. It'll come back with the gravitation, it'll land back on this earth. What is escape velocity? Escape velocity is the velocity needed by this phone to escape the gravitational pull of this earth. So that should be the force I should propel it with. Why rockets go out to the space? Why we are able to go in space or on moon? Because that is the amount of force that has been exerted on that, and that's called escape velocity. 35 to 45, this is your time. This is your time for that escape velocity. You could be doing very well in your 20s, yes. Then that's fine. You've already, done your escape velocity thing, because you could be winning gold medals. I see, youngsters winning gold medals, silver medals, because if you're an athlete, yes, that was the peak cycle of your life. You already almost met your escape velocity there. You could do it again as well in certain other fields. You could be doing really well in your 25. We see millionaires and billionaires in their 20s. But just in case you haven't made it big in your 20s, in your teens, some do it in teens, if in your teens, in your 20s, you haven't really made it big and you want to, because this is another question. Again, the clarity of thought, what makes you happy. Just in case you're satisfied with the life, everything is hunky-dory, everything is good, fine. That's fine. Then don't bother. Then do not bother. Don't try to be what you're not. Don't try to, you were about to say something. Don't
finish what you're saying.
Yeah, don't try to be what you're not, right? So that's clarity of mind. But in case you are really wanting to do something really big in life, you think that, yes, this will what will make me happy. I want to be really successful, do something big in life. I have that belief in myself, and now I want to focus. 35 to 45 is your age for that escape velocity. Age is on your side, experience is on your side, your relationships are there, you have that clarity of mind, and most importantly, you still have age on your side. Because if I say escape velocity at 50, again, it'll be difficult. So this is the best time, 35 to 45, escape velocity. Go ahead, and this is the time actually, if I ask myself, when was my career, if I had to narrow it down, after every 5 years, from I would say 19 to 24, then or 25 to 30, 30 to 35, 35 to 40, which was my peak cycle, I would say somewhere around 36 to 41. that is where I was at my peak, and that was my time for escape velocity. Not that it's not going to come, and I'm going to share this thing today. You've triggered it a lot. That I think my next big escape velocity, I've already reached space, but I think from that to moon or to other planets, now I'm figuring out that again right now. But try to have one escape velocity if you want to make it big, from 35 to 40. Try that.
I love that. That's really great. Okay, so when I would said focus, right? So when we say focus, it's great how you described it when it comes to goal planning.
Yeah.
But I'm also talking about, where's your focus? Like, are you focusing on the hurt you experience in life, because we all have experienced hurt? Are you focusing on like negative feelings? Because that's where your energy is going, right? So whatever you're focusing on, that's where your entire energy goes. And then, and like attracts like, it attracts more of that energy into your life. So it's for goal planning and career planning and life planning and all those things, you need the focus, but also understand that on a daily basis, if your focus is, for example, being distracted, then you're just attracting more of that. Like, so are you focusing on, like, for example, yourself, when you say, you have to have gratitude. If you don't have gratitude, you don't experience anything. Because you have a sense of gratitude and your focus is on gratitude, more things are coming into your life. Yes. But if your focus is on everybody who hurts your feelings, and people are going to hurt your feelings. Not everyone's going to like you, right? But if your focus is on that, all your energy is going into that. It changes your physiology, the way you stand, the way you breathe, the way you carry yourself, what you're going to talk about. It just shifts everything. So understand that if your mind is sitting in all those negative things, that's where your energy is going. And but going back to my third one is, you got to go through self-improvement. So whether this is on your personal, like learning about, about yourself and what it means to the personal relationships you have, whether it means about your professional life, whether it's about your financial. This is a time where you have to actually get in touch with understanding where you at in life and where do you want to be and what skills do you need to upgrade on. And whether, like you said, get a coach, get a mentor who has done it really well, that you want to, because you don't want to learn everything from scratch. Yeah. Yes, you want to get to know who you are, but when it comes to all the other planning, whether it be financial or professional and all those other things, go and learn from people that are doing it really well and have done it really well, because you're not here to reinvent the wheel and go through trial and error and all those other things. But when it comes to personal development, absolutely, because it could change entire thing. Because you need to ask yourself, am I doing what I want to do because my parents and society and pressures have made me do it? And so I'm going through a force of like the least resistance by doing what everybody expects me to do, and I'm okay in life, which is not super happy, because that's where you're supposed to be. You're here, when you were a fetus in your mother's womb, you had to put zero effort to be born. Like, you had to, like, the development over those 9 months, what effort did you actually have to put in there to like grow? Arms, legs, a brain, like to be fully functioning, you had to put no effort. And then when you were born, like, are you putting effort into breathing and blinking your eyes? Like, you don't have to put effort. Like nature, you have in Canada, you have 4 seasons, or do we have 3 seasons?
4 seasons.
No, I know, but sometimes you don't even feel fall or spring anyways. But you have 4 seasons. You have spring, summer, autumn, and winter. And through that, like, nature is doing its own thing. The tree doesn't actually have to put any extra, I don't know, I was a tree, but it looks like they don't have to put any extra pressure to like go through like dropping the leaves and going through the renewal phase. So in everything in nature, and you're part of nature, it's almost effortless. So you already have all those things. You already have freedom. You already have perfection in what you are and what it's funny because I was listening to a sermon, and I forget like who was giving the sermon, like what religion it was, but I think it applies to all. And he said, the people who say, God, please, and pray for happiness, please make me happy. And then the priest, or I can't recall honestly, because I listen to so many people, right. And I just take what works and all that. And he said, well, think about it. He goes, think about it. He goes, God then turns around and says, okay, wait a minute. You're asking me to make you happy? Okay, let's look at it. I gave you life. you have 2 legs, you have 2 hands, you can speak, you can see, you can hear things, you can taste things, you're fully enabled, fully bodied, you're living in this earth that makes like crops for you to eat from, right? Fruits, vegetables, whatever. Like you have everything. Because your state of mind and how you choose to where you're focusing, where your energy is going, it's my fault. Like you literally have everything to be happy. You just choose not to be happy. Now, I'm not saying like that's what God's saying to you, but you have to think about like what you've been given. And like you're right, if you don't have that appreciation and gratitude for it, like what do you have? You're just gonna focus on what? That just makes no sense. That brings you down. So really, and that you won't even realize that unless you do some of that self-development work on yourself. And one thing I want to ask, I want to say is you've always been saying what makes me happy, what makes me happy. And you were saying it last week that, ask yourself what makes you happy. And I think that's great because you got to do what makes you happy. But if you haven't done any self-development, and if your answer is what makes me happy is when I can control other people and I can get them to do what I want them to do, there's a level of maturity you haven't reached yet. And therefore that's not the best thing to do in terms of that's what makes you happy. So yes, I agree with you. Ask yourself what makes you happy. But if your answer is how to control other people, how to be better than other people, how to be more significant, like then you realize, go back to center. Maybe you're a little more ego driven. And you got to work on yourself because then you're going to choose things they think, oh, this makes me happy, right? And then that's what I'm going to do. But then if you're making other people miserable because you want to make yourself happy, then that's not the best use of your life.
Yeah. No, we've given a litmus test this many times earlier as well, because if you want to really check your thinking is positive or not, or you need to work first of all on this one even before figuring out. So we said this very clearly. If when you see others happy, that makes you happy. That's the first tick box. Second, by others' success, if it inspires you, that's the second tick box. And the third and the final one, you can't see anybody sad. That makes you sad. You want to do something. If you see anybody unhappy or sad, you want to do something. The box is ticked. If these 3 boxes are ticked, you're positive. On the flip side, if you get jealous of others' success, you need to work on you. Yeah. If you see others happy and you cannot feel the happiness from within, you're seeing others happy, nothing good. You don't say, oh, what's in for me? He's happy. No. Good for you. No. I don't really like this word. I've never said it. Good for you. Good for you what? What's good for you? That person is happy. You don't feel that happiness for that person? That means you need to work on you. So if you're feeling happy, wow, this happened to you, what? From within. So then that's fine. And the third and the final thing, you cannot, if you're the other side, you just said a very good thing. If you like to see others miserable, you don't know. Then if all these boxes,
or you want to control them.
Control them. Yeah. Yeah, you're going to control them or do
their feelings, how they should treat you. All those things not good.
It's not good. Then certainly you need to work on yourself. Yeah. And should I get going with the fourth thing?
Yes.
Yeah, but I'm really enjoying today. I must say this here on record. The last 3 episodes, as much as I enjoy Food for Thought, it's great to be on this show always. And this is your idea. This is your creation. You're the producer of this show. You did an amazing thing, and this has transformed my life as well. And your best part is you articulate things in such a nice way, which is great. But especially the last 3 episodes, the one we did for 15 to 25, now 25 to 35, now here we are doing 35 to 45. Really enjoying this, really enjoying this. Now the fourth point would be, I'll try not to overlap anything, right? So I wanted to put health here once again, but then we've discussed health, so I'm not putting here health. I'll put here, financial freedom. As much as we all heard this term and everyone would have their own definitions, so I'm putting financial freedom over here. Ask yourself, we all could be in broadly, 3 or 4 different categories. One category could be we have debt on ourselves, right? We need to work on ourselves then, for sure, because the window is narrowing down. If you're in between 35 to 45, you're not in teenager anymore, you're not in your 20s anymore. If you're in 35 to 45, you still have some sort of debt. You need to start working on that one, because you'll enjoy your life a lot more. I'm enjoying my life right now. I had debt at that age. I must say this on here. When I was 35, I had a lot of debt, hundreds of thousands of dollars, not just 20,000, 50,000. I had written a lot of it because of my business. But then I did things, and now I'm enjoying a lot. So if you're in debt, you need to work on that. Second position could be whatever you're earning, everything is getting spent. So that's fine. So, and I consider what's the definition of poor and rich. Poor means you need $100 and you have $99. I consider that person poor. It doesn't, you don't have to have millions. No. Very simple definition. You need $100, you have $99, consider yourself poor. You need $100 and you're getting exact $100. You're fine. You're fine. You're not rich, you're not poor. Right there. So maybe you need to work a little bit more. You need $100, you have $120 at the end of the month. Every month you need 100, you have 120. As much as people would think this thing that you need millions of dollars, you need to become a billionaire. Many people tell me I want to become a billionaire at 25, 28. I don't know, that may or may not give it. But I think this third stage where I say you need $100 and you're having 120 is the best stage. All your expenses are met. You have little bit extra if someone needs you, you can support them, little bit extra for the rainy day. You're having a balanced life, enjoying every moment of your life, not really, striving that hard that you're spending 7 days of life and after 10, 15 years you say, for what? For what? I mean, all those extra zeros in the bank and I lost so many other things. I wasn't able to keep that balance for all those billions, maybe those jets and all those, your private jets and all those may not really satisfy. So this is, I think so, but again, this is for you to decide. This is the best stage of this thing, and 35 to 45 is a good time that yes, if you have to work after 50, it should be by your choice. Keep a target of 50, that after 50, if I have to work, it should be by choice, 4 hours, 6 hours, 8 hours, 10 hours, or even if I don't have to work at all. So 50 should be your target, just in case you're a little bit late, okay, by 55 or 60, you should be fine. So 35 to 45 is your best time to start thinking about financial freedom. And I'll again say that even if you are late, I had a lot of debt, hundreds and $1,000. So don't overwhelm yourself, but start thinking on that.
That's very good. Yeah, and that actually goes really well with my next one, which is after you have figured out where you're at, where you want to be, whether it's like you said, you want to get to a point where you don't have to work at a certain age, but you'd like to work, and how many hours you'd like to work, that's one thing. You still need a plan, or you want to actually, like you said, escape velocity and really go and blow things up in a good way in your life in terms of, where you want to, what you want to achieve, where you want to get to. So you need a plan, and that plan is essentially you need to figure out your why before your how. So because if your plan doesn't motivate you, then you're not aiming high enough. You've just chosen a boring plan because maybe you're somebody who wants security and you don't want to go through rejection or failure, and maybe that's what you're scared of. This is what self-development will teach you about what are your values, what's driving you. Remember we talked about your subconscious. Your subconscious is, that was an episode. If you missed it, please tune in for Food for Thought on Y Media on Facebook or YouTube. We did a whole episode on your subconscious, and it's programmed from the time you're born to the age of 7, and you're really in a hypnotic state where you're just taking it in based on your surroundings. So what your parents say, what your siblings do, what society you live in, everything you're just taking in, and those are the values that is driving you as an adult. So for example, if you're not taking risks, but you have these conflicting values where you want to achieve great things, but then you are risk adverse. Well, then you're going to go nowhere because you're in a deadlock. But you're not aware of it unless you start understanding what are the meanings to the things that you value. What is your belief system? Don't just assume it's there and it's what society is. No, figure out what they are and what they mean to you. But when it comes to your plan, figure out what your why is. It's got to be compelling enough to make you want to do something. Why do you want to do something? What is that? And then you figure out your how. Because if your why is big enough and it moves you from an internal force, not just like, oh, it's nice. Like it actually moves you. Like you can feel the blood rush, you can feel your breathing change because it's such a compelling reason why you want something. Then you'll figure out your how. And then of course you need to figure out what your strategy is, because you need to have, everybody needs a strategy. And like what you said, yours was a perfect example, right? If your goal is one thing but your strategy is completely off, you're not going to get to your goal. And that's definitely, like, for example, weight loss, we talked about that. So if I'm not measuring where I'm at and I say, oh, I just want to lose weight, but then I'm not specific how much weight and what time duration, and then I'm not measuring it, and I'm also not active enough, or I'm not figuring out what I'm eating and all of that, then I'm obviously not going to get to my goal. But it also means that my plan wasn't compelling enough for me to do anything about it, because I didn't figure out my how. I don't have a strategy. If I just say, oh, I'm going to just do what feels good, or like, oh, I'll just limit my calories, it's not enough. It's not enough. You also don't want to go into a deficit where you're losing essential vitamins and your hair is falling out and your skin gets really bad because you're just not feeding yourself. So you have to have a proper strategy of how you're going to get there. And then, of course, you want to be able to measure very frequently, where am I at? Where was my benchmark? What's my goal? Where do I want to go? How far have I come? These are all measurements, because if you're not where you need to be, then you need to adapt what that plan is, and you need to, and that's something that's ongoing with everything, not just with work, not with just, but even with your relationships, right? You have to be able to actually consciously think about things and put your energy into it. And so I would have to say, you got to have that plan after you figure all this stuff out.
Very well said. Can I add to that one?
Yeah.
Very well said, actually. I think whether we are in our 15 to 25 age group, or 25 to 35, 35 to 45, or even 45 to 55, whichever age group we are, I think that word will always be very important for you, plan. I'll give you a very quick example. If someone is sitting in Toronto and they say, I'm going to go to Tokyo in the next 24 hours, what are you going to take? Are you going to take bus? Of course not.
Yeah.
You can't travel in 24
Are you
hours.
swim?
Are you going to swim? Thank you. Thank you. It's going to take all your life. Swimming from
Get on a bike?
Get on a bike? Toronto to Tokyo? No. Thank you. Thank you for that.
I exaggerated those answers, but yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right, because sometimes we don't even think it through,
Yeah.
and we come up with these absurd answers and strategy that just doesn't even match what you want to do.
Yeah, you're right. So somebody could be, planning to go, but plan it the right way. So we all have limited time on this earth. So just in case we are 15, 25, 30, 35, 40, whatever age group we are. So we need to plan, okay, if I'm, say for instance, I'm 35 right now. So we're talking about 35 to 45. So if I'm 35 right now, what will happen for me when I reach 40, 45, 50, 55, 60, 65? Plan every 5 years. And then I think I try to plan it for our business as well. And it's worked well up until now. Not exactly there, but more or less it has worked very well. So I always try to plan 5 years for my business and 5 years for my life as well, personal life. So I plan both these things. So plan in your fives, whatever age group you are, plan in your fives that this is where I want to be at 40, from 35 to 40, 45, 50, 55. So planning is very important, because the next 24 hours given to me, I could be riding a bike, and after 24 hours I could be just in Toronto. And I asked Ramonaji, where are you? She said, I got just 24 hours, and I picked up this spacecraft, and I'm almost this million kilometers away from Earth, enjoying this space, and I'm looking at stars, and it's a beautiful world here.
And I have a phone that works
And
in
she has
space.
In space. She has a phone that works in space, and because she made the best possible use of her 24 hours, she had a plan for that. She bought a ticket for a spacecraft, and here I didn't plan it, I didn't buy that ticket, and I was thinking I'm going to reach stars, I'm going to do this big, but I'm just riding around a bike here in the next 24 hours, because I didn't plan for that. Or I could be just walking on a street. So planning is very important, just in case you want to know how your next 24 hours will be, how your next 5 years or that would be. So planning is very important. The fifth and final one would be purpose of life. I haven't used that. I think you used that earlier as well, but I'm fitting in this category now, because I found purpose of my life in between 35 to 45. So I thought because when you tell me this is the age group, then I start figuring out what did I do right or wrong. So I've said that earlier as well. So I'll share my experience. These are the things I did wrong, and these are the things I did right. So purpose of life. Did I know that? Answer is no. I had all the wrong notions about being happy, about purpose, all the wrong notions. I wanted to become famous, I wanted to do big. Money wasn't an issue, but big in business. Okay, this will be my purpose of life. I want to become famous, this will be my purpose of life. And today I've realized, being famous could be one of the worst things in life. I don't want to be famous any further. This is what I want to, this is what I've realized now. Big, I'm skeptical about that. I may or may not do that, right? So I'm half and half there. But very importantly, I think purpose of life. This is the time, 35 to 45, you should start finding purpose. I remember Monaji said one thing, all this, why media, whatever is happening, we're attracted great souls. And even when she was alluding to great souls, I was thinking, yeah, so what's the purpose? I thought maybe something big in business, but that's the point when she explained me later on after a few days, because my focus, you used the word, my focus was business. I thought maybe something big on business. No, purpose. What is the purpose of why media if you have all these great souls around you? I said, yeah. And my purpose of life. And I think from Buddhaji to my wife Preetji and listening to you as well, I think I've come to this conclusion in the last few years, whatever I've thought. My purpose of life, I think so. It could be nothing else. There could be only one purpose of life, spreading love, spreading happiness, and trying to make lives easier. So I've made it a point. Earlier, I didn't do it on a very objective basis. I would do it here and there. But now I've started noting it down. What did I do to make anybody's life easier in this particular day or week or month? And I'm very thankful and grateful that if at all I get any opportunity to do anything, and it doesn't have to be, and this is my purpose of life. I found my purpose of life, and I don't know if it could change or not. And it has made me so happy. All other things apart, as much as I still want to grow the business, I'll keep working hard for that. I want to do so many other things, but this has brought happiness within and the contentment, which I think was a bit missing. It was 99% there, as much as I thought I'm very happy. But I think with this point, this edition, I think so, it's 100% there. The purpose of life. That yes, as much as I could get anything, but now this is what I want to do. And making things easier for anybody. Ramona ji, you may not realize this, but I want to tell you this thing. I think I told you this earlier as well. You do this. You practice this. I've seen you practicing this thing. And this will make you happy from within. Don't think what is in for me. We always think any person that you meet, don't think what is in for me. If I'm helping him, what can I get? No. Just keep on doing whatever you can. A simple compliment, and it should be genuine from the heart. If you really see someone really running fast, wow, you got a nice sprint. What's your timing for 100 meters? Great, 11 dead. Wow, 11 second dead. I used to do 11.5, but wow, your timing is amazing. Your sprinting is very good. I didn't do anything. I just, appreciated someone who's sprinting hard, who has a nice sprint. So any genuine appreciation, feeling anything, or saying anything, if it could do it financially or anything that you could do for anybody else to make lives easier for them, I think that will give you the purpose of life. And we must start figuring out from 35 to 45. Maybe we'll dodge the midlife crisis also, and we'll feel happy, contented, at peace from within. I'm enjoying this thing.
I think if you work on yourself actively and not let life teach you,
okay.
Because life can take you and teach you things, or you could actively work on yourself and overcome challenges and be proactive, then you may not have to go through a midlife crisis. Midlife crisis is when a car is going so fast on a highway, like going 300 kilometers an hour, and then without taking any safety precautions of what's the direction I'm headed, why am I heading this fast, what's the purpose behind what I'm doing, who's in my company, and then it has that crash effect where you just get to a point where you're like, you almost wake up, you get startled, and you're like, what have I done? Why am I here? What am I doing? Am I even happy? And that's when the crisis comes, because you didn't ask yourself. You didn't check if you're sick and if you're going in that fast car. You want to make sure your tires work. You want to make sure your seatbelt's on. You got to make sure certain things are in place. And if somebody who's just, you have been so narrow-minded, focused on maybe your work or your a relationship or whatever it is, yourself, whatever it is in life, whatever it is that you were chasing and not really asking yourself, why am I doing any of this stuff? What's my purpose? What's all this drive about? Is it really going to make me happy? Who am I hurting along the way? All those things, then you will have a crisis, because that's not going to escape you. There's going to be one day that you're going to meet your fate and your destiny on some of these things, because it can only go for so long. You can only go so long on that 300 kilometers per hour without actually having direction, seatbelt on, tires that don't work so well, maybe no gas in the car. You can only go for so long. So perhaps you won't come across your midlife crisis because you're working on yourself. So don't, it's not like a thing that's going to happen. right? And as long as hormonally you're okay, because some of that midlife crisis comes with imbalancement of hormones and stuff, because men also go through it. They think only women go through it, but there's that when women go through menopause, there's certain things that change within them, and they need to be able to rebalance. That same thing happens to men. So just like how every decade, don't you find your skin's different, your hair is a little bit different? Maybe you developed allergies, or you got rid of the allergies you had, or your sensitivities. Same thing goes. So that's also to feel good. It's okay about that. The other thing is when you were saying that when you give something, when you do something for others without expecting anything back, that's really good, because you should be able to do that. Because if you can transfer knowledge, if you can save someone time, why wouldn't you do that? If you can be generous with your time. I'm not saying be generous with time where you have no time for yourself, where you're completely depleted. I'm saying, but if somebody is requiring some sort of assistance, give it to them. If you can save somebody a decade or even an hour of something and help them figure it out with them, why not? And the other thing is, the second thing to that is also, if you have if you don't want anything, like you're doing it because you don't want anything in return. It's not a transaction, it's goodwill. But also in the future, don't expect something back from that person. That's the other thing I learned from another pastor, and this is Joyce Meyer. She's great if you ever want to listen to her stuff. She's a pastor, and she said, and I listened to this, like, I don't even know, like maybe a decade ago or something. And these things stay with you, because when you hear something good, it kind of stays with you for a long time. She said, when you do something for somebody, don't expect that person to do it back for you, because that's not how the universe works. Like we talked about, how the universe has a perfect accounting system. Whatever you put out there in intention and in your karma comes right back to you. Yes. And it's so same thing goes. It's not going to come back from that person. So if you're going to give something, give it fully without expecting it back from that person, because the way it works is you're going to get it through some other means. I've had help along the way. I've had all this advice I've received that. I've had people help me come up with a strategy and a plan. I've had people give me their time. I've had people share their resources with me. I've had so much help along the way. Why wouldn't I do the same thing back? Because that's just how things go. Like, what you put out there comes back. It doesn't have to be from that same individual. And then that's the most important thing, because that's when you'd start going to those low feelings of like, oh, why did I do it? Don't get away from all those feelings, because you're not going to feel good. You're not going to be in that good energy space. Your focus is going to go somewhere wrong, and then you're going to attract more of that. My final thing is have fun. Don't take yourself so seriously, because you might miss out on life. So just have fun. You have kids, play with them, right? You have high school friends you're still in touch with, or even new friends. Have fun. Have fun with your spouse. Have fun with people at work. Just enjoy your life. It's not so serious. You're not like God and you have to overlook the entire universe and the galaxies. You're not. You literally don't have that ability. So don't take yourself so seriously. Chill out a little bit and just enjoy the moment and just kind of fall back into your body. One thing, I've been doing yoga, and it's so fantastic because it makes me come back into my body. And you do sports, and it puts you back in your body, not in your head. And then you realize, okay, you just feel good. You feel like, okay, I'm alive, and this is nice. Why am I in my head or outside? Sometimes we're worried about what's happening out here. We forget to be in here, and it's so important. So I would just have fun, enjoy your life. You're in a good place in your life. You don't have to, for example, ask for permission to do something, because you're no longer a child. You're well in your career. You have access to resources. You can make decisions. You're a free person. Have fun.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with you. There's a saying as well, don't take your life so seriously. Nobody came out alive.
That's true.
So, and there's another thing there's another saying as well, So just in case you're having a tough time in your life and you come out alive, you'll be even stronger and even better. So both ways, don't take things so seriously in your life. But I think I really enjoyed today's discussion. I'm sure these are just our experiences that we're sharing, not trying to tell you that these are the only ones. I'm sure you would have your own experiences, and you could learn from your own experiences as well. But I think we enjoyed it. Monaji, thank you so much for today's session. Your final
Thank you. It's always great. And we always want to hear from you, your thoughts. Join us on Facebook or YouTube, and let us know what you'd like us to talk about and what your experiences are. And maybe you have your own list of 5 things that would make somebody very successful. And I would say, you know, take your time and pass on that knowledge to someone else. If you can save them a lot of, you know, time and effort, it would be really good. And so thank you for joining us on this conversation. Thank you for, of course, always sharing your insights as well.
Thank you for the invite.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.